Hello everyone and welcome to Beamish Bookworms. Today I shall be reading the poem Keeping Quiet and also giving you the stanza-wise explanation. Keeping Quiet is a poem written by the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda sometime in the 1950s. Let me tell you a bit about him before we read the poem. Pablo Neruda was the recipient of the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. Initially, Pablo Neruda was his pen name, but later he legally adopted it. He started writing at the early age of 13. He was a prolific writer and wrote in Spanish basically. He is counted among the best and most widely read poets of America. His writing style is simple, yet elegant and beautiful. Okay, now that we know a little bit about him, why don't we proceed with the poem? Keeping Quiet. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once in the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers, in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. That was beautiful. So basically in the poem, the poet asks us to be quiet and still and given to some introspection. This poem is very, very relevant to our modern times. The words resonate with us. Yes? Good. Now we'll go into the stanza-wise explanation. Here we go. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. We're always told to count up to 10 when we are upset or when we lose our cool. Counting gives our minds something to focus on, so we forget about our anger. But here the poet asks us to count not up to 10, but up to 12. Why? This 12 signifies time. It could either be the 12 hours in a clock or the 12 months of the year. We count till 12 and then remain still, not moving and focusing our mind on just the stillness. We let go and just be. The next lines. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. The world is divided into countries, states, regions, all speaking different languages. These cause us to create barriers amongst ourselves. We start to differentiate based on the tongue we use. The poet therefore asks us, for once, just cease speaking. Let's observe complete silence. This silence will unify us and tie us together in an unbreakable bond. This sort of thing is unprecedented. It's never happened before on the earth. Hence, the poet uses these words, "For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language." The poet also asks us to stop using our arms like we are so habituated to. Arms here implies two meanings. One is literally our physical limbs, and the more devastating one is the arms and ammunition which we use to kill and destroy. So the poet wants us basically to stop everything. No movement of our arms and none at all in terms of war. "Let peace prevail," says he. The next lines. "It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness." What is exotic? Something that's unique and otherworldly, right? So, the poet states that this moment of stillness, of peace, will be exotic, as the world has never before been so quiet and so tranquil. We are living in a fast-paced, materialistic world. We are always in a scramble to reach somewhere, to achieve something. But a world where the engines, the machines are silent, even if for a brief period of time, is like entering a state of nirvana. What's more, we'll all be in this together. So this sudden strangeness would be a welcome intrusion in our hectic lives. The next few lines. "Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands." God created all creatures alike, giving each the equal right to life. However, we humans dominate over other sentient beings. At the behest of the poet, however, we'll all be still. So, the fisherman, who, not out of cruelty perhaps, but to earn his daily bread, would cease to capture the magnificent fish in the sea, especially the whale. The lovely creatures of the sea would get a few more precious hours to live, a new lease of life. The man who was so up to his neck in work would get a much-needed breather. He would sit back and give his body and his soul time to heal. Here the salt gatherer symbolizes all of us, the workaholics, who are so hesitant to take a break, lest a competitor moves ahead of us in the never-ending race of life. Moving on. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. The poet says that we have since time immemorial been looting and plundering the gifts of Mother Nature, whether it's in the form of deforestation, mining, or extensive commercial level fishing. This is in addition to the wars we are always fighting with one another, using a variety of arsenal. These so-called victors in a war are losers too. It's a shallow victory, as people on both sides lose their lives. There are no winners in a war, just a loser and another bigger loser. But if we keep still, all these destructive activities will temporarily halt, and all the brethren will walk together with their hearts full of love. Their clothes would be a pristine white and not tainted with the blood of their brothers. They would all sit calmly under the shade of a tree with a smile on their lips and love in their hearts. Next few lines. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. The poet requests us to be just still, akin to meditation, where we are silent and are just going into some soul searching. But this does not mean that we are inactive. It certainly does not mean we are indolent. He doesn't want this quietness and stillness to be associated with death. Rather, it should be associated with introspection. We are all so caught up with the daily grind that we have ceased to be humans. We are much like robots who've been programmed to complete our daily chores. This moment where we will give in to the calmness will help us to heal, help our souls to get rejuvenated. We are always living under the constant nagging fear of being left behind. We are always so aware of the fact that life will reach its final destination soon. So, we have to amass wealth and luxuries before the final plunge. This leads to a constant burden, sadness, and stress. We owe the stillness to ourselves. We owe it to our minds and bodies and souls. Now for the last lines. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Mother Earth is perhaps the best teacher. She teaches us so many wonderful things. She teaches us how to rise like the phoenix after all seems lost. The earth has survived meteors, the ice age, and the extinction of so many wonderful species. Yet, she took a sabbatical and returned with a bang. In the winter season too, the earth seems to be taking a hiatus. She hibernates and returns in all her glory in the spring season. According to the poet, we all should take a breather too and come back fresh and rejuvenated. Lastly, he reiterates that he will count up to 12 and leave us, and we should all enter a state of sublime stillness. This concludes the reading and explanation of Keeping Quiet. I hope you will appreciate the poem more now that you understand it. From Beamish Bookworms, till next time, happy reading everyone. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please do like and subscribe to Beamish Bookworms. Please press the bell icon to get notified when a new story comes out. Meanwhile, happy reading everyone!